Hey, this is Buck Dharma of Blue Oyster Cult, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
Welcome to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP-TV studio, AAMP Television. Today's show is brought to you by UppercutChops.com. Check out their tasty selection of all-natural, dry-aged USDA prime Wagyu steaks and chops. Wait till you taste their best-in-class New York steaks, the filet mignon, and of course the king of all those, gigantic cowboy cut and tomahawk cut ribeyes. Best I've ever had, probably be the best you ever have as well. Check them out at UppercutChops.com. That's UppercutChops.com. Or give them a call, find out what's for dinner at 702-799-9935. 702-799-9935. 702-799-9935 for UppercutChops.com. And welcome in, everybody listening in on all of our radio and television affiliates from coast to coast. Everybody streaming on pick your favorite streaming platform, as well as on television in select markets for Cox, Comcast, Spectrum, Frontier, Oceanic, Time Warner, Wow Cable Television, Hotel TV, as well as everybody on Facebook watching and listening in on Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. All right, that's good stuff. All right. So, of course, we had a very busy week in the National Football League. Always have winners and losers. As a matter of fact, Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels are actually both big hits. And that actually is historic in the grand scheme of this winners and losers situation. You could pick your favorite platform to pick it up from, but here's a nice little handy-dandy article that we found, and it deals directly with these winners and losers, and we're going to debate it a little bit, but I want you to hear this. It's rare for quarterbacks to go with the first two picks in the NFL draft, and both of those quarterbacks going to be superstars. That has never happened before in the modern era, believe it or not. Yet, this year's class looks like it may change that history. Of course, it's too early to declare victory on Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels. After one season, Andrew Luck and Robert Griffin III, the first two picks of the 2012 NFL draft, looked like superstars as well, but that fizzled after Robert Griffin III's ACL surgery. But it appears that Williams and Daniels are going to be among the NFL's best quarterbacks, possibly for a while. And it's setting up for a memorable offensive Rookie of the Year race. Now, Caleb Williams had a better than average start as a rookie quarterback, but it looked poor in comparison to Jaden Daniels' blazing hot start for Washington. And in fact, we may have seen a little bit of a change when the Bears played Jacksonville over in London. I don't know. Now maybe the race has sort of drawn even. But anyway, when you look at what Williams has done, I mean, throw 4 touchdowns and, of course, a fantastic Bears 35-16 victory over Jacksonville. I find that interesting, though. Jacksonville's playing 2 games in a row over there in London. Well, maybe because Shad Khan, the owner of the Jacksonville Jaguars, has an ownership interest, of course, in a soccer team and a stadium over there, I believe. And so it stands to reason that the Jags will play 2 games in a row over there. Look, and if you're the betting type, and let's just say you happen to have lost a little money this year, and I will say this, and I'm going to actually bet it myself. For all those people that believe that, well, you got to keep chasing, you look for the right scenario when it comes to betting. I'll get back to this winners and losers thing in a minute. You could actually be a winner on this one. And I fully believe this, and of course it's my opinion. My opinion is just that. But think about this. If you're down a little bit of money, or maybe you're up and you want to go up a little bit more, for all of those betting would-be, I guess, prognosticators. That's the word we're looking for. So for all those people that think they know how to pick games and this and that, and they look at all the stats and all they do is they crunch numbers. Well, let's think about this for a minute. There is no way that the Jacksonville Jaguars and their ownership is going to allow them to go to London and lose 2 games in a row in London on the European stage, as well as, of course, the rest of the world. It's mathematically possible, but you have to understand how the money moves with the betting lines, whether it's Vegas or even over there. And I would be willing to bet, and I'm actually going to bet on this one myself. I don't care what the point spread is. I'm going to bet on the money line that Jacksonville wins the game next week in their game against the Patriots. It will be Jacksonville winning. The line is lay if it's 3-1, 4-1, who cares? Lay it, because there's no way that Jacksonville is going to go over there and lose 2 in a row. Think about how that would look to the European audience. Why do we have this losing team over here? Nope. But if they split, it's an entirely different story. So it would only occur to me that, yes, Jacksonville got their hats handed to them by the Chicago Bears. But I don't believe that's going to happen against the Patriots. But nonetheless, back to this winners and losers thing. So looking at the Jags, yeah, they are a horrendous team, I suppose, with perhaps the NFL's worst defense. And that certainly didn't hurt Caleb Williams. But he did look like a number 1 overall draft pick, and actually how one probably should look in today's time, which is a little bit of an alarming idea in the first place, because you think about quarterbacks going into the National Football League. Well, generally speaking, historically, they learn behind a veteran quarterback, but not in today's time because the contracts are too big. So, Caleb Williams did show great vision as a freshman in the NFL. Yes, he did win the Heisman a couple of years ago, but Jaden Daniels won it last year. So you have Heisman 1, Heisman 2, first pick, and then second pick. Well, it kind of makes a little bit of sense. So these guys would probably play pretty well. But he did show great vision, and he really improved his skills and made play after play and had some impressive throws. Now, of course, you got to get rid of it in under 3 seconds if you're a quarterback in the NFL. You got to get rid of that ball one way or another. And he had a lot of time against a very substandard defense. So you look at the Bears' next game and you scratch your head and say, well, what's going to happen? Oh, that's right, the Bears get a bye. So maybe they get a chance to study some film, and then they get to retool against their next opponent. But when you look at these winners and losers, you see, okay, well, guess what? Caleb Williams also got Keenan Allen back on the Bears squad because he's been injured. And, of course, he even threw a couple of touchdowns to him as well. And so, I mean, look, he put the ball exactly where it needed to be for the Keenan Allen score. And, of course, well, it's not normal for a quarterback to look that good in only his 6th game. If that's the case, geez, what about Jaden Daniels? But anyway, back to Caleb Williams. He had been slowly progressing, looking better and better each week, which is exactly what you want for your quarterback. And, of course, the Bears are now 4-2 as their quarterback figures into the NFL at a very rapid rate. And so what's happening, actually, the game is slowing down very quick for him. Jaden Daniels looked like he mastered the NFL on his first day, which is even more rare. And Daniels didn't even have a banner day in that loss against the Ravens. But, hey, you faced a much better defense, and they still scored 30 points against a very difficult defense. They lost 30-23, but they scored 23 points against a very bad defense. That's not bad. But, of course, that doesn't really put much of a damper on the start of his rookie season, being Jaden Daniels. And the Ravens are, of course, one of the NFL's best teams defensively. And, of course, Daniels still went 24 for 35 with 269 2 touchdowns. That's pretty damn good. So that loss ties Washington with the Bears at 4-2. And, of course, very few expect them to have that kind of a record after 6 games anyway. And, you can compare these guys side by side briefly, which is kind of interesting. So you look at their total yards, and through 6 games, only 44 passing yards separates them. Passing yards per game, only 8.8 yards separates them in passing yards per game. Jaden Daniels with a much higher passing percentage at 77.1 to 62.9. Caleb Williams with 5 touchdown passes. Jaden Daniels only with 4. Quarterback rating, Caleb Williams with a respectable 81.3, but Jaden Daniels with a stellar 106.3. So there is a difference here. Now, the history of the quarterbacks who have gone 1-2 in the NFL draft is not good. The best pair might be Jim Plunkett and Archie Manning way back in 1971, but Plunkett didn't have success with the Patriots that drafted him, and Manning is best known for doing his best as a horrible quarterback during a very bad Saints era. Jared Goff and Carson Wentz each had moments, but Wentz faded fast after his injury. Most of the 1-2 pairings have been pretty bad. Rick Meyer, Ryan Leaf, Tim Couch, Zach Wilson, Bryce Young, well, and who knows about the aftermath of that. And, of course, it's not just Williams and Daniels. Drake May looked pretty good in his first NFL start as well. Bo Nix has been playing very, very well, too. So, look, this group of quarterbacks could rival that 1983 Dan Marino and John Elway class. Now, that's something to consider as well. So, look, it's hard to believe that there's never been a draft class in which quarterbacks have gone with the first two picks both succeeded. Chicago, Washington are very happy that it seems history might be made with this class. And, of course, Washington and Chicago will play each other in 2 weeks. And that game will feature the two NFL best rookie quarterbacks, and we'll see what happens here. In fact, we'll get to those winners and losers in the next segment here on the Sports Circus. Don't go anywhere. Lots more to come.
Attention business owners, you and your customers are listening to this right now. Face it, every business needs customers, even yours. The Sports Circus is a primetime nationally syndicated program that's carried on ABC, NBC, CNBC, and Westwood One News affiliates, plus CBS, Fox, and NBC sports affiliates across North America, with coverage from Hawaii to New York. Also, the Sports Circus is available to the 180 million subscribers on iHeartRadio, and the Sports Circus gets about 4 million website visitors per month, which could click through your website and bring sales. The Sports Circus provides great content featuring celebrity guests from sports and entertainment to our audience every weekday, which your company could greatly benefit from by increasing your visibility, foot traffic, eyeballs to your website, and calls from potential customers. Call us right now at 702-799-9935. Again, 702-799-9935. Or email us at info@thesportscircus.com. That's info@thesportscircus.com. Drive your sales today by advertising with the Sports Circus.
Are you tired of high cable TV rates? Sign up for Dish today and get a $500 bonus offer while supplies last. Plus, lock in your price for 2 years guaranteed. Call All-American Dish, your Dish authorized retailer now.
800-476-6087. 800-476-6087. 800-476-6087.
Offers require credit qualification, 24-month commitment, early termination fee, and e-auto pay. Restrictions apply. Call for details.
Could you use a little extra money right now? If you'd like to borrow up to $100,000 and get pre-approved in minutes, call the number we'll give you at the end of this commercial. Our lending partners have already loaned millions of dollars to individuals just like you, and we're ready to lend you up to $100,000 if you qualify. Even if your credit is not perfect, you could use the money to pay off high-interest credit cards, for home renovations, or consolidate existing debt. You can get flexible, easy-to-pay terms. The consultation to find out if you qualify is free. To find out if you qualify for our special financing program, call this toll-free number 24 hours a day. 800-335-1376. 800-335-1376. 800-335-1376. That's 800-335-1376. Important terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Loan amount, annual percentage rate, and term will vary depending on creditworthiness. Applying does not guarantee approval. Account approval is subject to verification and confirmation of your credit history and acceptance by a lender. If you choose to apply for a loan through us, a consumer report will be obtained to evaluate your creditworthiness in connection with your application for credit.
That's the sound of sizzling, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks from UppercutChops.com. Beyond New York steaks and the king of all steaks, the tomahawk and cowboy cut ribeyes are the best in the business. Even their Prime Wagyu burgers will likely be the best you've ever had. Browse the full selection of steaks and chops at UppercutChops.com from the comfort of your home or on your mobile device. UppercutChops.com delivers all natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks and chops directly to your door without the hassle of going going to the grocery store and fight crowds to pick from a small selection of average at best meats with injected steroids, fillers, and coloring added to look good. Find out what's for dinner at uppercutchops.com or call 702-799-9935. That's 702-799-9935. 702-799-9935. Or make your selection directly at uppercutchops.com.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm Roy Firestone. Now it's time to throw it back to Sal.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. This segment brought to you in part by our friends over at the College of Southern Nevada Athletics. Check them out at csncoyotes.com for upcoming games and events. That's csncoyotes.com for the College of Southern Nevada Athletics. All right, welcome back to everybody listening in on our CBS, NBC, and Fox Sports affiliates and independents coast to coast, including our friends over in Atlanta on WDJY 99.1 FM. Big hello to our friends over in Auburn, Alabama. It's WAUD, home of the Atlanta Braves, stretching all the way from Columbus, Georgia, all the way over to Montgomery, Alabama. Big hello to our friends over in Honolulu, Hawaii on CBS Sports 1500 KHKA. That's home of the Yankees, 49ers, and the Alabama Crimson Tide. And, of course, hello to everybody else on TV, all of our streaming platforms, all of our independent radio stations as well from coast to coast, everybody that has pulled our content down, that's streaming it, playing it, whatever, on pick your favorite platform. We're all over the place. You can't get away from us. And a big hello to our friends on Chicago Food Favorites, also on Facebook. All right, back to this winners and losers in the NFL. We talked about the quarterbacks in the last segment. And, you know, we think about these winners and losers for the NFL from the previous week. We say, well, you know, there were other guys that played pretty well, too, in the quarterback position. And I'm not, listen, I'm run, pass, option type of quarterbacks. I think a quarterback needs to stay in the tackle box like they're supposed to, where their protection is, and be a pocket passer. Historically, those are the quarterbacks that have won Super Bowls. Think back to the greats, to the Bradys, the Montanas, to the Elways, to the Roger Staubachs, etc., and so forth. The Terry Bradshaws. They're pocket passers. These are the guys that have won multiple Super Bowls. Not the guys who have lost them like Fran Tarkenton. And Jim Kelly was a good one, even though he lost 4 Super Bowls. He's a very, very good quarterback. Pocket passers tend to win in the NFL. Then you take the opposite side of that, and you say, well, what about this Justin Fields guy? Well, look, with Russell Wilson healthy again, Justin Fields' job security is now game by game. And, of course, he has to play well to keep the job. And, of course, in his first game since Wilson was healthy, well, he delivered a win against the hapless Raiders of Las Vegas. Those guys are terrible. In fact, they're so bad that even the players are pushing the coaching around during or after the game. That's how bad it is. I mean, talk about discipline problems. It is one of the ongoing issues with the Raiders. Not only are they cheap, and I mean cheap, but they lack discipline. Anyway, back to the Steelers. They beat Vegas 32-13, and Fields was a big part of that. He threw for only 145, which isn't that impressive, but he also rushed for 59 and a couple of touchdowns. He didn't do anything that would have the Steelers considering Wilson as an option next week, especially after a 19-point win on the road. Pittsburgh also is 4-2, and at some point this season, there could be a quarterback change. I mean, let's face it, they went and picked up, being Pittsburgh, they went and picked up Russell Wilson for a reason, and Russell has won a Super Bowl. Fields has not. So right now, Fields is doing what he has to do to keep the job. But the NFC South leading Falcons, now, those guys, they tend to play pretty well. But, you know, here's something interesting. In my own observation, it's Atlanta, it's Cincinnati, and Detroit. All three of those teams, we know they can put points up. But all three of those teams have something else in common. they don't seem to be able to put the other team away. And they tend to win a bunch of close games, if that. And so here's the case. Again, here's Atlanta. Atlanta goes into Carolina, a team they should absolutely maul, destroy, crush. And they get themselves a 5-point victory. That's it. A 5-point victory. And of course, the line conveniently was 6 in that game, if you know what I mean. Yeah.
Show me the money!
In fact, I had the Carolina as the home team dog plus 6. Nonetheless, we think about Carolina hung around for a while, but of course, Atlanta eventually won the game. They did pull away. But ultimately, we scratch our head and say, well, wait, why did they not score as many points? Or why did they let so many points up on defense? That's the part. I mean, the Falcons still look good with more than 400 yards, but the problem is Carolina was able to move the ball pretty easily. Now, that is a big problem. So you look back and you say, well, Bijan Robinson had 95 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns, with great news for fantasy managers, of course, who drafted him in the first round. And then the other guys, Kirk Cousins continued to look more comfortable as he put up 225, which is kind of like the league average, and a touchdown. And the Falcons haven't hit their top gear yet, apparently. That's what people are saying, though it's getting a little bit better. And, of course, they'll take over being in first place. And the reality is, it is Tampa that is really the team to beat in that division in the long run, because, boy, those guys just playing very, very well. We'll get to them in a minute. In the NFC North, this is probably the biggest surprise of all of the NFL. It's hard to get 4 playoff teams from the same division. I mean, the math is hard to work out, especially when teams take losses in tough divisional games. But it sure seems like the NFC North has 4 of the best teams in the National Football League. Who knew? And of course, the Vikings are 5-0. Detroit is a championship contender. We saw that. The Bears are 4-2, and Green Bay is 4-2. I don't ever remember in all of my years of living that I've ever seen at this juncture in a season, maybe 5-6 games into it, that all the teams are at least 2 games over 500. That is remarkably impressive. So Jordan Love, of course, looked very good in dismantling the Cardinals, but then again, it's the Cardinals, but that's the same Cardinals team that destroyed the opposition in San Francisco. And so you ask yourself, and you say, wait, that's the same Cardinals team that had another big game. And look, these guys are pretty damn good. And so look, Jordan Love threw for his 3 first-half touchdowns, and look, all the way back from a week 1 knee injury, he finished with 258, 4 touchdowns, in the same light that Caleb Williams had about the same amount of line score. And so maybe the Bears and Packers, eventually that game might be actually worth something on both sides for a change. But the Packers are going to be just fine, as everybody's saying, and the only problem is that they play in the best division in football. Who knew? The Houston Texans, boy, the beat just goes on for those guys. Another big winner. Those guys, they played very well against New England, who really isn't a very good team, but rookie quarterback Drake May didn't change that a thing in his debut. He had 3 touchdowns as well in his first NFL start. But of course, one of the telltale signs of a good team is leaving no doubt against inferior opponents, and the Texans passed that test. C.J. Stroud just continues to look good. He's the only Ohio State quarterback I've ever seen that actually is good. And he did look like an MVP candidate, and the Texans didn't really miss Nico Collins much. And Nico Collins is one of those guys. He's a big receiver, running back guy. This guy is a really good Swiss Army knife, but he's a big guy. But he's on the injured reserve list right now with a hamstring injury, but he'll be back. And let's face it, it was one of those games where they didn't really need him against the Patriots. So May really wasn't that bad against the Texans either, who have a pretty good defense. And by the way, one of the Bears' losses came against a very tough Houston team, and the Bears lost a very close game against them. Nonetheless, beating up on the Patriots doesn't make Houston a championship contender, but at 5-1, the Texans look as strong as any team in the NFL. And I would argue that Kansas City is the worst 5-0 team I think that I've ever seen. And I think the Bengals are probably the best 2-4 team that I've seen in a long time. Nonetheless, back to the Ravens offense, Derrick Henry has changed everything for Baltimore, and it's not even often that an MVP quarterback changes its identity. That's a positive, but it's happened in Baltimore. And Derrick Henry had 132 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns. Lamar Jackson, 323 passing. Zay Flowers, 132 receiving. And Mark Andrews, the tight end, had 66 yards and a touchdown in that win over a very tough Washington team. So Jackson never had a great running back to work with, but now he does. Baltimore can move the ball any way it wants. And, of course, with multiple stars on offense, it's going to be very, very tough to slow that Ravens team down. Now, the losers on the other side, the big loser of the day, of course, goes to the Dallas Cowboys. Of course, we always give them a nice round of applause whenever they lose. And the Cowboys have had the weirdest split in the NFL season so far. They're 3-0 on the road, and when they're at home, they look like the worst team in football. The Cowboys were embarrassed completely by the Detroit Lions, 47-9. And they're 3-3 in this category. Of course, and Dallas has a point differential of minus 66 at home this season, and they've played one good quarter at home all season. That's it. And when they turn a blowout loss to the Ravens, interesting, with a in the other 11 games that they've looked horrendous, team owner Jerry Jones should send an apology letter to the season ticket holders. That's how I feel, and that's how everybody else seems to feel too. Cowboys defense continued to be an issue, and the Lions move the ball up. And Detroit has a very good running game, and the problem is Dallas can't seem to stop anybody on the run, if you know what I mean. Yeah. What happens in the NFL. And so when we come back from break, yeah, that's right. So nice round of applause for them. So when we come back from break, we're going to finish this up. We're going to jump into college football in just a few minutes here on the Sports Circus, right here on your favorite station. So don't go anywhere. Lots more to come. I'm your Ringmaster Sal of the Sports Circus, a primetime, nationally syndicated television, radio, sports, and entertainment show. The Sports Circus covers topics others are too loud. There's no other primetime show like it on air that'll punch you in the face and you'll beg for more. Join me, Hall of Famers, world champions, and all-star celebrity guests for chaos and controversy here on Libsyn and all podcast platforms, plus thesportscircus.com. Remember, folks, it's a circus and we prove it every day.
Hello Americans, it's Uncle Sam here. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes to the IRS or state, don't worry. I've got important news that may help you negotiate a lower tax bill. In today's economy, the IRS has released a variety of new rules and is offering more flexible terms to help Americans looking to settle their IRS debt. If you apply today, we may be able to lift your wage garnishments and release a freeze on your bank assets or business. Our team of tax professionals can resolve your case and stop collection actions against you. Even if you've been audited or haven't filed a return in years, they can help. Call right now and find out if you qualify to settle your IRS debt for far less than what you owe. Pick up your phone right now and call us for a free $500 IRS tax review. Don't wait. Here's the number.
Call right now. 800-950-2049. 800-950-2049. 800-950-2049. For the last time, that's 800-950-2049.
Do a search on how to get out of credit card debt, and you'll find everything from crazy promises to ways you can try to do it yourself. Many of those ideas just don't work, and they leave you broker than you were. Here's some advice. Call our debt helpline. In a quick and free 5-minute conversation, our experts will listen to you and learn about how much credit card debt you have, what your goals are, and then show you the right solution to help you get out of credit card debt with one new simple, affordable payment. The credit card companies make available special programs to help if you're struggling. All it takes for you to finally get out of credit card debt is one quick, free phone call. So please call right now.
800-948-6817. 800-948-6817. 800-948-6817. That's 800-948-6817. Paid for by the Debt Helpline.
That's ridiculous.
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
Hey everyone, Dave Jackson here, ESPN rules analyst on ESPN Hockey, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP Studio, AAMP Television. Folks, make sure you check out thesportscircus.com for our upcoming guests, our prior guests, our recorded shows, which are our podcast. Lots of those out there. In fact, I believe there is about 2,100 of those, at least 2,000 of them nonetheless. So make sure you check those out as well. And you know what? If you want to go on a listening binge for, I don't know, maybe a couple of months or so directly, just over and over and over, well, think about this. You could go to thesportscircus.com and we'll take, let's see, 24 hours in a day, and we'll go times 7 days a week, right? 168 hours, and we'll do that times 4 for 4 in a month, right? 672. Basically, you could go on a listening binge for, I don't know, about 3 months straight and listen to Sports Circus episodes one after the other, until you get sick to death of it. And guess what? If you want more, you can go right back to the beginning, because you're not going to remember episode 1 versus episode 2050 or something to the effect. Anyway, also, when you go to thesportscircus.com, there's other stuff to look at too. As a matter of fact, this is kind of cool. So check out one of the tabs across the top, and that tab is the store. So yes, the Sports Circus has a store for hats, t-shirts, hoodies, sweatpants, sweatshirts, bags, gym bags, even travel mugs, notepads, jackets, you name it, dress shirts as well. We've got everything over there. So check out thesportscircus.com under the store. There's lots of great stuff. So, of course, a shameless plug for the Sports Circus, and thank you for checking it out. Real quick on these losers from the NFL. This is always a fun piece with the winners and losers. And I like how other people bend and manipulate these, but they say the Denver Broncos momentum is a loser for their game against the Chargers. I mean, first of all, they had their hands full with a pretty stout defense. And remember, Jim Harbaugh's teams know how to play defense. And so Denver needs to know, well, I think they already do, and I believe that the audience really needs to know that, look, Sean Payton's teams typically can move the ball up and down the field. Bo Nix is playing very, very well. I like Bo Nix. And it's a shame that he didn't work out under Brian Harsin with that terrible, terrible offensive scheme and coaching scheme that he had when he was the Auburn coach. And I really think that Brian Harsin set the Auburn program back a solid 5 years, but War Eagle's going to be back, so don't worry about those guys. Nonetheless, Bo Nix obviously went over to Oregon, did very, very well. They should have won the Heisman last year, had the best numbers. Over in Denver, having a really good rookie year. And this kid, look, ended up with 216 yards, but almost all of that came after the Chargers led 23-0. But Nix looked like a confused rookie for a little bit of the time while the Chargers built the lead, but he came back and played very, very well. Look, the Broncos are 3-3 with a rookie-led club. I wouldn't say that they're really a big loser. They lost a pretty tough game, and it's not as if the defense didn't show up. They played a very good game. It's just unfortunate that, well, the offense really couldn't punch it in against a pretty stout defense. So I'm not going to say so much that. Another loser, they say, was the sloppy Browns. Now, the Browns, let's face it, they gave Philadelphia all they can handle. And I would say the big loser in this was really Philadelphia, despite the fact they get a win over the hapless Cleveland Browns. I think it's the Eagles that should have been a big loser in this because, honestly, they only won 20-16 against a pretty bad Cleveland team. So I don't know about that. And then, the people at Yahoo, for example, they were saying, well, the officials in Tennessee, they're the big losers. They didn't have a grudge against Tennessee, and they don't care which team wins. The NFL, they say that this is funny. This is the people over at Yahoo. They say the NFL isn't rigged. And I say,
show me the money!
Yeah, right. But two bad non-calls in the fourth wrecked any chances for the Titans to have a comeback against the Colts. Twice on third down passes, Tennessee threw to DeAndre Hopkins, and twice there was enough contact that it should have been flagged. Neither one was called. No. And here, Gene Steratore, the television guy for the NFL, he even has something to say, and this was, in fact, on X. And let's see if we can pull this up real quick. Compliments of Gene Steratore. Let's see if we can pull this up. Here we go, folks. It's live. Anything could happen. Oh, you know what? There's no audio with this piece. But then again, he says the contact to DeAndre Hopkins is early and significant. This should have been a penalty for pass interference against Indianapolis, but it wasn't called. Nonetheless, the Titans probably shouldn't have punted on 4th and 7 with less than 3 minutes left after the second non-call, but they did, hoping to get the ball back, and they did, but with just enough time to run one desperation play. That, I guess, would be a winner. And how about the Saints? Remember when they were 2-0 and considered the surprise in the NFL? After 2 wins, well, that doesn't seem like a month ago, does it? But the Saints have lost 4 in a row since that hot start. And, of course, their loss against Tampa, a very good Tampa team. Look, they had to go with rookie 5th-rounder Spencer Rattler. Yes, Spencer Rattler. That's the guy getting his first NFL action in place of Derek Carr. But it was still disappointing. Spencer Rattler wasn't really a good college quarterback. And guess what? So far, for what he showed, he wasn't really that great of an NFL quarterback. Saints fell behind 17-0, rallied to take a 27-24 lead at the half, but then kept giving up big plays to Chris Godwin, including a game-turning 55-scoring-yard drive. That's right. I said it that way on purpose because it was almost like in slow motion, even though that 55 yards happened, and it happened pretty quick, but it was really poor tackling that really showed almost a slow motion touchdown being scored. So if you saw it, you'd know why I said it that way. Anyway, the Saints never got any momentum in the second half on offense, and they ended up losing 51-27, and the Saints look like an enormous disappointment at this point. So you say, well, what does all that stuff mean? I'll tell you what it means. Let's go to the standings real quick. And the standings show that, well, the cream is starting to rise to the top, or the cream is getting ready to rise to the top in some of these divisions. I guess that's really how you have to look at it. And when I look at it, I just say, well, hey, wait a minute. Once upon a time, never mind the Saints, what they've done. Once upon a time, the Cowboys were supposed to be a really good squad. And I'm not so sure that's the case. I mean, think about this. With these scores, San Francisco beating Seattle 36-24 on the road. That was an easy one. The Bears with an easy win in Jacksonville. Green Bay with an easy win against a fairly decent Arizona team. The Colts end up beating Tennessee. Houston doubles up New England. Tampa destroys New Orleans. Philadelphia ekes by Cleveland. Baltimore with a solid win over Washington. Chargers 23-16 over Denver. Pittsburgh big over the Raiders. Lions destroyed Dallas. Atlanta wins over, yes, Carolina. And the Bengals 17-7 in their victory. You look at these standings, you say, well, hey, you know what? It doesn't really look that bad in the grand scheme of things for some of these teams, because some of these teams, they have a little bit more to offer than some of the other ones. Over in the NFC, let's start there. In the NFC East, what we're looking at here is now Washington Commanders are still in first at 4-2. Philadelphia somehow in second at 3-2 with a -6 differential. Dallas 3-3, minus 42 differential. They look awful. And the Giants at 2-4. The NFC North I mentioned before. Minnesota 5-0, Detroit 4-1, Chicago 4-2, Green Bay 4-2. Nice to see the Packers in last place, of course. And all those teams are above 40 in their differential, too. NFC South, Atlanta, Tampa at 4-2 apiece. Atlanta, in terms of a tiebreaker, they get the nod. New Orleans 2-4, Carolina as expected at 1-5. San Francisco out in front in the West, yet only by a tiebreaker over Seattle. They're both 3-3, which you expect San Francisco to be 5-1 at this point. And they're the only team with a plus on the net points. They're plus 32 in that division. Everybody else is under. Yes, over in the AFC real quick before we go to break, we've got Buffalo and the Jets in first and second place. Miami 2-3, New England an abysmal 1-5. Over in the AFC North, it's Baltimore and Pittsburgh both at 4-2. Cincinnati at 2-4, a decent 4-2 team. I wonder if the coaching is the problem at Cincinnati because they have the personnel. Cleveland awful at 1-5. Houston rolling in the AFC South 5-1. Colts 3-3 with no differential. But Houston, ironically, is only in 8 points above. They're winning the close games, what that means. Jacksonville an abysmal 1-5 on a minus 65 in differential. Kansas City 5-0. Chargers 3-2 over in the AFC West. Denver at 3-3, a pretty good Denver team, and the Raiders an awful 2-4 team at minus 54 in the scoring differential. And frankly, only the Patriots in the AFC and the Jaguars have a worse differential in the AFC, and over in the NFC, it is Dallas minus 42 points, but Carolina leads the world at minus 100 points in differential. Yes, minus 100 points. Back here in a few minutes with college football. Don't go anywhere.
Can your IRA stand up to the next financial crisis that our top economists are saying is at our doorsteps? By allocating a percentage of your IRA into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover, you can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns by putting your IRA back on the gold standard. Find out how to safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA, the only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Call now for your free gold and silver report. Protect your IRA today with one simple phone call and learn how to qualify for up to $10,000 in free silver. Call Genesis Gold Group, empowering faith-driven stewardship. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. That's 800-932-5517.
If you served in the Marine Corps, by now you know about the contaminated water problem at Camp Lejeune. If you were stationed or worked at Camp Lejeune from 1953 to 1987, you probably have a lot of questions. We have some answers. You could be entitled to compensation. Billions of dollars are being allocated to pay for damages to anyone stationed at Camp Lejeune during that time. Unfortunately, it appears that officials may have known the contaminated water problem existed and did little to protect their men. The Semper Fi Code was not honored. If you or someone in your family has developed a serious illness, including various forms of cancer, call this Camp Lejeune legal support line right now. You can't turn back the clock and change what happened, but you can certainly call right now and learn your rights as a Marine. Here's the number.
Call 800-335-7196. 800-335-7196. That's 800-335-7196.
That's the sound of sizzling, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks from UpperCutChops.com. Their best-in-class filet mignons, New York steaks, and the king of all steaks, the tomahawk and cowboy cut ribeyes are the best in the business. Even their Prime Wagyu burgers will likely be the best you've ever had. Browse the full selection of steaks and chops at UpperCutChops.com from the comfort of your home or on your mobile device. UpperCutChops.com delivers all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks and chops directly to your door. store without the hassle of going to the grocery store and fight crowds to pick from a small selection of average at best meats with injected steroids, fillers, and coloring added to look good. Find out what's for dinner at uppercutchops.com or call 702-799-9935. That's 702-799-9935. 702-799-9935. Or make your selection directly at uppercutchops.com.
Hey everybody, this is Brian Urlacher. Welcome back to the Sports Circus.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. Folks, make sure you check out the partners page at thesportscircus.com. Lots of great partners over there. One of those is our really good friends. That is the people over at Cali Strong. Cali Strong, the California sports apparel company. Check them out at cali-strong.com. That's cali-strong.com. And in fact, you can even go to their website and check out their apparel, their hats, their glow-in-the-dark t-shirts and whatnot, skatewear, shoes, accessories, all kinds of great stuff, everything from Rastafari to God knows what. Great socks. I have the whole line of socks and lots of hats with patch hats. You can change the patches and all kinds of neat stuff. Check them out again at cali-strong.com. That's cali-strong.com. In fact, you can visit their main store, their flagship store over in San Diego, downtown San Diego, right over there across from Seaport Village, right over by, I think it's by the Cheesecake Factory, if I'm not mistaken. Boy, that's good stuff. And tell Jim that Ringmaster Sal had sent you. All right, college football. College football, we think of these rankings real quick. Got to run through these just because we can. And we're going to start out with those receiving votes and working our way up. Those receiving votes, all the way at the very, very bottom is UNLV gets one vote. Only one vote. But anyway, somebody voted for him. Liberty 2, Southern California, USC gets 5 votes. Louisville, Utah, Arkansas, Syracuse, Texas Tech, Iowa gets 29. Washington State, with a nice win over Fresno. Oklahoma, Arizona State gets 39 with their big win. Nebraska, 62 votes. Vanderbilt gets 68 votes, just out of the top 25. And this is the first time, folks, in 60 years that both Army and Navy are both in the AP top 25. That's unbelievable. Navy is at 25, and they're 5-0. Michigan, right above them at 4-2. How is a 2-loss team ahead of Navy? I'll never know. Michigan at 4-2, number 24. Army 23 at 6-0. Illinois 5-1, and they're at number 22. SMU 21, 5-1. Pittsburgh undefeated in the Big 12, and somehow they're all the way down to number 60. Not really sure, or number 20. Not really sure how that works. Anyway, they're a Power 5. They're undefeated, and they're at number 20. Missouri, number 19, 5-1. Ole Miss, 5-2, number 18. Kansas State, a very good Kansas State team, number 17, 5-1. Indiana, leading the Big Ten at 6-0, is ranked number 16. I'm sorry. Look, I'm a Purdue guy, and this is the arch enemy, but I say, you know what? That's wrong. Indiana should be ranked a hell of a lot higher than that. Even Boise State, but yes, that's right. Boise State is above them. A Mountain West group of 5 at 5-1. How does that work? Texas A&M, 5-1, number 14. Brigham Young, a very good Brigham Young defensive team, number 13, undefeated. Notre Dame, 5-1, number 12. Tennessee, 5-1, number 11. Clemson, 5-1. They've been playing very well in the last 4 games. They're 5-1. Iowa State, the Cyclones, are 6-0, number 9. They cracked the top 10. LSU, Alabama, 8 and 7 are both 5-1. Miami of Florida 6-0, number 6. Georgia, number 5, 5-1. Ohio State, 5-1, number 4. After that loss to Oregon. Penn State goes to number 3. Oregon, number 2 at 6-0, along with Penn State at 6-0. And Texas is the number 1 team at 6-0 as well. So here, let's look at this. You've got 3 teams in the Big 10, or really the Big 16 or Big 17, in the top 10, Big 18, whatever the hell it is now. In the SEC, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 teams. In the ACC, you've got, and that's in the top 10. ACC, you've got 2 teams in the ACC in the top 10. So obviously, this whole 12-team playoff thing is geared towards, of course, the Power 4, because Pac-12 with 7.5 teams, well, the Pac 7.5, they don't qualify at this point. And the first group of 5 team that is on the outside looking in, never mind independent Notre Dame, at number 12, that would be Boise State at number 15. Somehow, Indiana doesn't even get a look at 16, and they're all the way down the trough. And you've got 1 lost team, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 one-loss teams ahead of Indiana. That's crazy. And they're undefeated. Anyway, so these rankings, look, they shouldn't even have rankings until November 1st anyway. Because when you look at these standings, all right, let's go right over to the Big Ten real quick. And you'll look at these standings, and it's Oregon, Penn State, and Indiana all at 3-0 and 6-0 overall. That's pretty damn good. So if Oregon is number 2, Penn State is number 3, Indiana has the same record, yet they're number 16. Why? Maybe because they're in a smaller media market and nobody expects them to win in football, but yet they're ranked way below Ohio State. And Ohio State is ranked number 4, and they have 1 loss. Indiana has no losses and a better overall record at 6-0, better in the conference as well at 3-0, and they're ranked 16. That makes 0 sense to me. So moving down this list, looking at the Illinois game, Illinois is, they're in 6th place. And, they had a very shaky game against a very bad Purdue team. And Purdue took them to overtime. Illinois was up 27-3, and then they completely fell apart. The game ends up in overtime, and Illinois scores the first touchdown in overtime, and Purdue goes down and scores the touchdown right away as well. But they went for the win on the road in Champaign, and they came up a little bit short. They lose 50-49. How Illinois is even ranked in the top 25, I'll never know. Wisconsin, a very bad Wisconsin team, is 4-2. Iowa 4-2. Michigan 4-2. Minnesota, a pretty good Minnesota team who's beaten both USC and UCLA. Welcome to the Big Ten. And going all the way down to, well, let's face it, you got 1, 2, 3. Illinois was 6, 7, 8, 9. Michigan was 9, 10, 11. So all the way down to 11th place in the Big Ten is where the new teams come in. Washington is number 11 in 11th. Better yet, they're in 11th place in the Big Ten. And in 15th place is USC at 1-3 and 3-3 overall. And UCLA actually is in the toilet. They're at the bottom at 0-4 and 1-5 overall in the Big Ten. So a very rude welcome for those squads into the Big Ten. They thought it was going to be easy. Well, those guys aren't as good as we are. Really? How'd that work out? Back to the American Athletic. Army and Navy are 1-2. Army's 5-0 in the conference, 6-0 overall. Navy is, and they're ranked 23rd. Navy is ranked 25th at 3-0 in the conference and 5-0 overall. The Mean Green of Texas, right on their heels, 2-0 but 5-1 overall. Those guys, that's a legit program, the Mean Green. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised to see them go over to the Pac 7.5. And in fact, also within the AAC, I wouldn't really be surprised to see Rice and possibly Tulane head over to the Pac 7.5. Now that may make a little bit of sense because they could poach. They've got a lot of teams over there in the AAC, and it would be a big step up. So as long as they keep their 10 teams, they would be okay, and they might be able to get to take, being the Pac 7.5, along with them. They could even take Memphis, or they could possibly take UTSA, University of Texas San Antonio. Why? Because the Roadrunners, first of all, are in the San Antonio market. They grab the Texas market, the marketplace, one of the big cities there, and it actually may make a little bit of sense if they keep a regional group such as Tulane, Rice, and maybe UTSA together so they can play local teams too. Now, over in the ACC, it's Clemson in first place, ranked number 10, 4-0. Miami, and that's in the conference, they're overall 5-1. Miami 6-0 overall, 2-0 within the ACC. Pittsburgh 2-0 and 6-0 overall. And then you have newcomer SMU in fourth place at 2-0 and 5-1. SMU is a real nice addition, along with Cal and Stanford, over to the ACC. And that was, well, obviously a very good academic move for the ACC. And so looking at the very bottom, it's Carolina at the very bottom. Of course, they always get a nice laugh because of that. But they're 0-3, but 3-4 overall. They're not that bad. Duke is 1-1 and 5-1 overall. A very good Georgia Tech team with handed Duke a loss. They're 3-2, just above Duke, and 5-2 overall. But the ACC looks pretty strong. Those guys are playing pretty good overall. Over in the Big 12, it's BYU and Iowa State, both 3-0 and 6-0 overall. Very good squads, both on offense and defense. So number 13 and ranked number 9 collectively. And then you have a very good Kansas State team that's in fourth place at 2-1 and 5-1. Even Arizona State, newcomer, is playing very well over in the Big 12. Outside of that, I wouldn't say that there's a lot of teams that are excelling. Over in Conference USA, it's Liberty and then everybody else for the most part. They're 3-0 and 5-0 overall, and they really don't have a hell of a lot of a challenge over there. Over in the Mid-American, the Buffalo Bulls, not to be confused with the Bills, they're 2-0, 4-2, just like the Ohio Bobcats are 2-0 and 4-2 overall. In the Mountain West, it's the local team. Vegas is 2-0, 5-1. Boise State, the ranked Boise State team, with arguably Ginty is probably the Heisman Trophy favorite right now. This guy's averaging 14-odd yards per carry. I mean, the guy's unconscious. He's incredible. Make sure you check him out. Check out Boise State in that running game. The Pac-2 doesn't really matter, even though Washington State's 5-0, Oregon State's 4-2. The SEC, we're going to finish up there with Texas A&M atop at 3-0 at 5-1. Texas at 2-0, number 1 ranked team at 6-0 overall. LSU 2-0, 5-1 overall, ranked number 8. Georgia 3-1, 5-1 overall, ranked number 5. Tennessee 2-1, 5-1 overall, ranked 11, and Alabama 2-1, 5-1 overall. But believe it or not, it's the Vanderbilt Commodores with 2 enormous wins in the SEC. Yes, against Alabama and Kentucky. Who knew? And they're 4-2 overall. Maybe Vanderbilt's done being a doormat. Arkansas steady as she goes. Missouri, a very, very tough defensive squad. 1-1, 5-1 overall, ranked 19th. Ole Miss, not much defense. 1-2 and 5-2 overall, ranked number 18. But there's a bunch of good teams in the ACC. And the old Auburn Tigers are 0-3 and 2-4 overall. And the only team worse than them in the SEC are the Bulldogs of Mississippi State at 0-3 and 1-5 overall. Sun Belt real quick. Georgia Southern in the East, Louisiana Monroe in the West. That's going to do it for the circus today. I'm your Ringmaster Sal. We'll see you next time right here on your favorite station. Until then, so long, everyone.
Can your IRA stand up to the next financial crisis that our top economists are saying is at our doorsteps? By allocating a percentage of your IRA into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover, you can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns by putting your IRA back on the gold standard. Find out how to safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA, the only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Call now for your free gold and silver report. Protect your IRA today with one simple phone call and learn how to qualify for up to $10,000 in free silver. Call Genesis Gold Group, empowering faith-driven stewardship. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. That's 800-932-5517.